The logcat tool and toast messages are Android specific, but you can also use debugging tools that are available to all Java developers. For example, you can use breakpoints and watch the values of variables. If you already use Eclipse, what I'm about to show will be familiar. I'm going to describe how to set a breakpoint and then watch the value of the variable within the breakpoint. And I'll work within this project, breakpoints. In this version of my main activity class, in the onOptionsItemSelected method, which is triggered when I choose an option from the menu, I have a little bit of code. I'm creating a literal string with a value of iteration, and then there's a loop. Each time through the loop, I'm creating another variable called message2 and appending the current counter value of I. Then I'm logging it using the log class. I'm using a tag of main activity to make it easy to find. I'll run this application in my emulator. And when the app comes to the screen, I'll go back to Eclipse, I'll restore my editor, and then look at my logcat. If you see any messages here, clear them before you follow the next step. Then I'll return to the emulator, move it down a bit so I can see the logcat in the background, and I'll choose the settings option. And I see the logging messages displayed in the logcat view. Now let's take a look at how you can look at the same values using breakpoints and watches. I'll go back to my editor, and I'll add a breakpoint on the line that's logging the variable by double-clicking next to the line number. The breakpoint is indicated by this icon. In order for the breakpoints to be respected, you must run the app in debug mode. Now, to see exactly what's happening, I'll move Eclipse over to the side here and move my emulator up so I can see both of them at the same time. I'll return the emulator to the home screen, come back to Eclipse, and now I'll run the app in debug mode. You can do this either from the menu by selecting Run, Debug, or you can press the associated keyboard shortcut, or you can click the Debug button on the toolbar. And that's what I'll do. When you debug, you'll see a momentary dialog appear in the emulator. The dialog is telling you that the ADB, or the Android Debug Bridge, is connecting to the emulator or device. Then, as the app comes to the screen, it's running in debug mode, and it has a connection to your development environment. So now, I'm going to choose an item from the Options menu. I'll choose Settings, and over in Eclipse, I get a message asking me to confirm that I want to switch to the debug perspective. I'll click Yes in Eclipse, and that changes the layout of my screen. Now let's take a look at what happens in Eclipse. This is called the debug perspective. It's an arrangement of views or tools that are particularly useful during debugging. And again, for the most part, these are the same tools you'll see for any Java development. You'll have the debug view up here that shows your call stack, variables, breakpoints, and expressions in the top right, the editor, the outline view, and down in the lower right, console, tasks, problems, and executables. The one view that's unique to Android here is logcat, which is still available. I'll expand my editor and show that I've paused execution of the app on the breakpoint. And now I can inspect the values of variables by simply floating the cursor over those variable values. And this shows me the value of message2 is iteration 0. I can step through the code using the stepping tools. For example, I'll touch step over, and I come back to the beginning of the loop, and I'll continue to step until I get to the log.d method a couple more times, and I'll check the value of message2, and now it's iteration 2. You can also add these variables to your watch view. I'll double-click to select the variable name, right-click, and choose Watch from the context menu. And that brings up the Expressions view. And now that expression is in my Expressions view, and as I continue to debug, I'll be able to see its value. I'll click on the Resume button, and when I get to the breakpoint again, the Expressions view shows me the value of message2 is iteration 3. When you're done with breakpoints, you can either remove them by double-clicking in the editor right next to the line number, or you can go to the breakpoints view and remove them here by selecting the breakpoint and clicking the Remove button. Finally, when you're in a breakpoint, you can look at the Variables view. And this will show you the values of variables that are in the current scope. So the variables, breakpoints, and expressions views can help you find out what's going on inside an Android app as it's being executed. And again, they're the same tools that all Java developers have available. They work the same in Android as they do in Java EE or other Java development environments.